For nearly 20 years, Gaza has been trapped under one of the harshest blockades in modern history. Shortages of food, clean water, electricity, and medicine have turned the daily lives of more than 2 million people into a constant struggle for survival. The world has condemned this blockade many times, yet it still continues year after year. In 2025, however, something new has captured global attention. A massive initiative called the Global Sumud Flotilla has set sail. More than 50 ships from across the world are heading toward Gaza, carrying humanitarian aid and volunteers determined to challenge Israel's blockade. Some see it as a beacon of hope, while others warn it could lead to confrontation. But before we can ask whether this step might finally succeed in freeing Gaza, we first need to understand what this flotilla really is. The word sumud in Arabic means steadfastness or resilience. And this is exactly what the Global Sumud Flotilla represents: the determination of people around the world who refuse to accept Gaza's isolation. It is not just a delivery of aid, but also a political statement, a declaration that ordinary citizens will not stay silent while millions of Palestinians suffer under siege. The ships carry food, medicine, and basic supplies that are denied to Gaza, but their most powerful cargo is solidarity. Now that we know what the Global Sumud Flotilla is, let us step back in history to understand why Gaza became the focus of such missions in the first place. Without this background, it is impossible to understand the meaning of the flotilla. After Hamas took control of Gaza in 2007, Israel imposed a strict blockade by land, sea, and air, supported in part by Egypt. This blockade turned Gaza into what many human rights groups describe as the world's largest open-air prison. Fishing zones were cut, construction materials were banned, and ordinary families were forced to survive under constant shortages. Over the years, Gaza also suffered repeated wars. In 2008, 2014, and most recently in 2023 and 2024, each leaving the Strip even more devastated than before. Today, Gaza is a place where electricity is rare, clean water is scarce, and unemployment is among the highest in the world. Understanding this reality also helps us understand why activists have repeatedly tried to break the blockade from the sea. And that takes us to the history of flotillas. One of the most well-known was the 2010 Mavi Marmara flotilla, where Israeli forces boarded the ship in international waters, killing 9 activists. The raid sparked outrage across the world, and briefly put massive pressure on Israel, yet the blockade remained in place. In the years that followed, smaller flotillas tried again and again. Some were stopped, others turned back, and a few managed to reach Gaza, but none were able to dismantle the blockade itself. This brings us back to the Global Sumud Flotilla. Unlike earlier attempts, this one is the largest and most ambitious of all. With over 50 ships and activists from dozens of countries, it is meant not just as a delivery of aid, but as a global protest at sea. But here comes the critical question: will Israel allow such a massive fleet to succeed? To answer that, we need to look at Israel's recent behavior. Since the war of 2023-2024, Israel has become even more aggressive in defending its blockade. It has intercepted ships before they could reach Gaza, detained activists, and confiscated supplies. Its leaders have declared that no challenge to the naval blockade will be tolerated. This means that the Global Sumud Flotilla is not just a humanitarian journey. It is sailing straight into the possibility of confrontation. Now let us carefully ask the central question of this video. Can this flotilla really succeed in freeing Gaza? If we measure success symbolically, then yes, it already has. The very sight of dozens of ships from around the world heading toward Gaza puts the issue back on the global stage. It forces media and governments to discuss Gaza again, and it keeps alive the idea that ordinary people will not abandon Palestinians to their suffering. But if we measure success practically, then the answer is more complicated. The blockade is enforced by one of the world's strongest militaries. No fleet of civilian ships can physically dismantle it. At best, the flotilla may deliver some aid, raise awareness, and put pressure on politicians, but on its own, it cannot make Gaza free. Still, every act of resistance matters. Every flotilla, every protest, every campaign is like a stone thrown into the water. The ripples spread far and wide. The Global Sumud Flotilla may not end the siege tomorrow, but it could influence international opinion, strengthen global solidarity, and keep the dream of Gaza's freedom alive. So in the end, will the 2025 flotilla succeed in freeing Gaza? Not by itself, but it can be a powerful step toward keeping the world's attention on Gaza's suffering, and that attention may one day create the political pressure needed to end the blockade for good. Now let me ask you, Do you believe missions like this can really change history, or are they only symbolic acts with no real power? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep this important conversation alive.